Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Art Whisper 88. This is a one of my doodles, and I assembled a series of oval shapes and half rounds or half moons, and this will be my rough guide for this composition. And I will start out with my Sharpie pen and map out this is a brand new pen, so it's very dark. So it's just a series of round shapes. These are kind of the same shapes that my reusable stencils are made of. I'm just doing a series of these shapes to fill up the space here. Okay, that is the first layer of marks. Now I will introduce my metallic Sharpies to create sort of a shadow image. This doesn't seem to be too there, it's getting better. I guess with this pen, the more you use it, the better it will write. And since the gel plate is very rubbery, it kind of drags a little bit. So I have to go very slowly. Okay, that's it for the silver. Now I will try, this is one of my favorites. This is copper. So from a very simple series of shapes, slowly becoming something very complex. And obviously I'm kind of deviating from my original sketch. And this is also a change from the usual scribbles, which are very free form and uncontrolled. This is a bit of a more controlled kind of approach. Okay, so that is my first layer of marks, and I will let this dry for about a few minutes, about 10 minutes, just to make sure it doesn't smear, while I wait, and I will apply this Blickcrylic raw sienna. And I find that this type of paint, which is a student grade paint, is actually very good for picking up marker images on the plate. It does a very good transfer because I think Blickcrylic has a lot of the transparent medium mixed into it, kind of like an extender. So, I mean, that's just my experience with it. So anyways, I'm gonna let this dry, and I will head on to the next step. Okay, finished with my mark making. So this is a nice clean sheet of Stonehenge. And since I'm trying to pick up the permanent markers on the first layer, I will leave this paper on for at least 10 to 15 minutes and allow the paper to absorb the moisture in the paint. So back in a few minutes. Okay, it's been about 15 minutes, and as you can see, the paper has buckled quite a bit because it has absorbed a lot of the moisture. I just hope it doesn't tear on me, but I think it has a very good transfer. Now, I'm not expecting all the marks to transfer, but it's the imperfections like this that give it that distinctive printed look. Pretty cool. Now, since this is a very complicated composition, there's no way I could have planned it exactly, but I'm quite happy with the result. It's more or less evenly distributed. And so as usual, I will air dry this and think about the next layer. So back in a few minutes. As I was preparing for the next step, I just realized the metallic marker is still remaining on the plate. So I'm going to take this opportunity to show you how I clean it off with baby oil. Because many of you viewers have been wondering how I get the stains of the magic marker off. And I just use some baby oil and paper towel. Well, first what I do is I spread the layer of oil evenly on the plate. I'm not scrubbing, I'm just kind of gliding my paper towel along the surface. And the marker comes right off. You see? And whatever residue is left from previous printings, because I do like to start fresh every time, especially since I'm doing a demo. I find that it's very important to start with a clean, fresh surface so there won't be any distractions of stray marks or stains. See how much of the residue has come off. And this is stuff that you can't really see until you apply the baby oil. Still a lot coming off. There. So it's a nice clean plate. So I will be ready for my next step. Okay, back after a short break, I was able to cut out some copy paper scraps and assemble a composition of shapes. And for this layer, I will use graphite by Amsterdam. So I will have graphite on the top and the bottom. And just to give a spot of color, I will have copper in the middle. So I will start with copper. And have graphite on the upper and lower layers. And see how it works out. So I will be starting with, I will use a narrower brayer. Start with the brighter color, which is copper. Blending into the deeper color, which is graphite. Now the advantage of using a paper stencil is it absorbs a lot of the excess paint and makes it easier for me to even out the layers. Now the downside is it can absorb too much, and by doing that it dries out the paint. So there's a fine line between too much and too little. So I am trying to work at a faster clip here. So that the paint doesn't dry on me. Okay. And here's the important part, where I take off the stencils. And somehow taking off paper stencils is a little easier because they, once they get wet with the paint, they start to wrinkle, and it's easy to see them. I think I got them all. Let me just make sure my fingers are clean before I grab my paper, which, by the way, is a Stonehenge. So to refresh your memory, here is the first layer with the marks. I'm applying a nice firm pressure on the paper, and I will leave this on for a good 10 minutes. I'm working around the edges because I want to have a nice clean edge on this piece. Okay, let's see what we got. It's a nice contrast. Looks like I forgot a stencil. Let me just that's what happens when you forget a stencil. If it's made of paper, a little residue will remain. I'm not going to damage the paper by scraping this off. I'm just leaving it, and maybe have some collage on top of it. But this is the result so far, and pretty interesting result. So this gets air dried, and I will be back and decide what the next step will be. So don't go away. I'm going to see if I can recover this ghost print. And I'm going to use the same raw sienna. and some of this Lucas beige. Now, both of these colors are on the watery side, so I have to offload some of the paint. As usual, I'm going to do my scribble work. Okay, it's been about 15 minutes. Let's see what we have here. I like the very painterly result. It's pretty cool. This would make a lovely background for a collage or some more stencil work. I'm going to do another experiment with this Blickcrylic Phthalo Blue, since there's some more leftover paint. This time I'm just going to use one solid color. This is one of my favorite colors. Because it has a nice saturation. Okay, it's been about 15 minutes. Let's see what we have here. I think we have a nice transfer. It's a very pretty ghost print. And this is the effect that I am looking for. And there is some advantage to letting the paper stay on the plate for a while. When I say a while, like 20 minutes or so. I think this is so cool. Sometimes the afterthoughts are the best ones of all. So let this air dry and see what comes next. Okay everyone, I'm back. And as you can see, I had a chance to play around with my scraps. I have here some warm-up exercises on tissue paper, which I find very convenient to use for collage. I have them both on white. Now the white disappears completely when it's mounted. And then these are done on like a beige colored tissue. These are my copy paper pieces, which I've cut up into some favorite shapes. And now I want to explain, when I did this print, it's a little off in terms of registration. This left margin is smaller than this one. So to kind of compensate for that, I am going to apply some collage pieces on the right side, kind of to fool the eye, to make it look even. There we go. The same thing with the top. It's a little slanted to the left. So to compensate for that discrepancy, I will place a small collage element on the top to balance it out. And I do like the fact that certain elements go outside the picture plane. I think it's very cool. So anyway, before I forget, I'm going to start mounting the pieces with Mod Podge. Now I have made a solution here in my plastic tub. I mixed the Mod Podge with a little water, maybe like a couple of teaspoons, just to thin it out. So I will start with this side piece. You could call this a doctoring. I don't see anything wrong with it. And this means that this is a true mixed media piece. It's a printed image and collage. I think my fondness for this imagery comes from riding the subways for many, many years. And the subways were notorious for graffiti and random posters on the walls, which get put up and torn down, and the result is an interesting kind of a documentary of time passing. At least that's how I see it. Okay. Now these are a series of, you could call them number 8s, but these are a chain of circle exercises that I did. And I find them very useful for collage. Now there will be a slight wrinkling, but that's okay. And that's why I purposely mixed some water with the Mod Podge, so the water will penetrate through the paper fibers and make them stick to the paper underneath. Okay, here is the half moon shape, which I'm fond of. And here is this little strip here, kind of just to balance out the top, because I was not able to register this properly, so it's a little crooked. There. So I will air dry this piece. It will be easier to see when everything is dry and all the glue has dried up. So I will go on to the next piece. Now again, I have some of my scraps of copy paper, and I'm going to mount them. I'm not going to bother with the part where I forgot the stencil. I think it just blends in. Okay, that is the second collage. I'll put this aside to dry. Now I have the third piece here, which is my favorite. I decided to put a spot of color Now this is quite old, so it's all curled up. So I need to soften it up first with the glue. So once the water content penetrates the paper, it will stick to the what's underneath. Okay, I think that does it for this last piece. I don't need to add too much because it has a lot of textures going on. So I have to wait for this to dry, and I will recap in a few minutes. So I'll be right back. Okay, I think the glue has dried completely, and the paper has flattened out, which is very good. Anyway, this is the first print, and let me show you a close-up so you can see the detail. This is the metallic part. And I like the way the scribbles interact with the collage. They have similar gestures, these sweeping curved lines. Okay, so that's the first one. And here's the second one, which is a ghost print. And I had mentioned that since it has a lot of plain areas, it would be ideal background for a collage. So here is a closer look. And here's a detail. Now I do like the bold gestures of the exercise pieces in contrast with the textures, the more delicate textures of the background. And as you can see, the white tissue paper disappears completely. It just leaves the brushwork. So that's the second ghost print. And here is the last. Which I like the most because it has the most complex surface. It's almost like a map. Almost like an aerial view. Now the application of the background, which is the Blickcrylic, since it's very watery, the sprayer creates these subtle textures. Sometimes they look like branches or roots, so it has a very organic feel to it. And there you have it. These are 3 monoprints with collage, and I relied more this time on the textures rather than on the stencils. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making these prints for you guys. And thank you for watching and subscribing. And for those who can, please contribute to my PayPal account to help keep this channel afloat. It helps tremendously with production costs and art supplies. I hope to see you next time.